Alex, can you describe the filing process and disclosures that are required of a company thinking about going public?
Sure. So, taking what Leslie said, I mean, the filing process actually should start probably a year or two in advance in terms of thinking about how you want to describe your business, what your KPIs are, get your financial house in order, get your corporate structure and your corporate governance in order, and think about just kind of how you're going to market yourself. Once you kind of do all that, it takes probably about a month or two to actually draft the S1, assuming you've got all that other stuff in place. And then we usually confidentially submit that to the Securities and Exchange Commission at that point. And we go through about a 75 to 90-day process where the SEC does a substantive review of your filing, gives you comments, and we go back and forth with them and negotiate kind of how to respond to their comments and comply with all the rules that we have to comply with. And during that time, also, you're thinking about 90-day period, you're like going into another quarter, so you're updating for financial statements as you go along. As you get towards the end of that process, about 15 days before you're going to start your roadshow, you flip that confidential filing into a public filing. And that's where you probably saw this with like Instacart did that a couple weeks ago. You see that, and then people the news starts picking it up. People start knowing that you're going to go public. After that 15-day period runs, you drop in the pricing information, so your price range, and that's where you tell people what the size of the deal is, what your valuation, what your proposed valuation is, and then you start a roadshow. The roadshow used to be like 2+ weeks. Now it's 5 or 6 days, 5 or 6 business days. I think Zoom has taken a lot of the time out of that process, and then you price, and you go public, and you start trading the next day. So that's kind of the process in kind of very short, simple form. The disclosure is, and this is where like companies really have to think about whether they want to be public and kind of what it means to be public, because you're going to have to put out a lot of information about the company. So a lot of it's positive. You kind of talk about your strengths and your strategies. Some of it's negative, risk factors. I'd say we always say that's your cheapest insurance policies. Disclose all the risks that you can think of around your business.